UK Cinema History bonus episode, Fallout Amazon TV series 2024, Season 1. Each morning the minister he advertised with neon signs to tell the native population that civilization is fine. And three educated savages hollered from a bamboo tree that civilization is. Hey, everybody. Hi, Yazzie. How are you?
Good. Thanks for doing this cool room.
Oh, thanks for being here. Hi. Actually, I did this one for Yazzie because we'll get into it later. But as soon as I saw that head with flies on it, my first thought was of Sam Peckinpah film with Warren Oates called "Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia." And the only other person I know who loved that movie besides Roger Ebert, who is no longer with us, was Yazzie, and so I immediately back channeled her, and this room was the result. Let me just give you some mod powers here and see if I can ping a few people, and then we'll get this room rolling.
Awesome. Hey, Ruby, great to see you.
I am going to start with a couple of trigger warnings. Number one, of course, there will be spoilers. And number two, pretty much everything. Um, uh, uh, let's see, incest, radiation, violence. Yeah, I can't think of anything that isn't. The dog doesn't die, so there's that.
Or maybe the dog does die and then comes back.
Or maybe the dog is a sim who can't die, or a ghoul who can't die. Well, we won't know until next season.
Um, hmm. I'm wondering if you become a ghoul, do you not die? Do you? I thought maybe a ghoul dies and then comes back, like a zombie does. But you're saying you might skip the death part if you're a ghoul?
Yeah, no, it's more like an eternal form of preservation. So, yeah, it's yeah, but it's I don't know how closely to the game they are that they're going, and that's going to be an interesting conversation. Hello, Shirig, how are you, my friend?
Yes, hi Eric. Yeah, I'm good. I was just hoping to find Ripley there somewhere, but I see Fallout, the new series that's come out. Have you seen Ripley by any chance, like the Andrew Scott version?
I have not.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I started Ripley because I love the book and everything, and I love the Antonio Minghella movie. I watched first episode. I really liked it. I really liked the portrayal of Ripley by Andrew Scott. I think he totally like embraced it and everything. And I like this stylistic black and white everything in the show. So I'm really looking forward to watch the rest of the episodes. But Eric got me involved with Fallout, so I had to go back and watch Fallout quickly for the room. So that's what happened with Ripley.
Sure, sure. I'm keenly listening to this, and I'll also watch Fallout. I mean, the room is about Fallout, so yeah. Thanks for the recommendation, Eric.
Well, I don't think actually there's too much you can spoil because it's such a bizarre series. So I think, but yes, I definitely recommend Fallout. I guess we're gonna kind of get started because I kind of realize now that if I ping people, it's not going to do anything. They know this room is here and they'd be here if they wanted to be. So. Uh, I am going to actually start with Yazzie because, of course, she was the inspiration for this room. And if it's up to you, but if you could kind of, the thing that got me going was, of course, the Sam Peckinpah film, uh, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, and the reference to the American Western all the way through this. And I would love to have someone else's perspective on that. So, Yazzie, if I could have that, and then we'll move to High's opening thoughts.
Yeah, of course, but I think it's gonna be a very long monologue by me. So I just start by saying this hybrid genre of mixture of Western and sci-fi that takes elements from both Western and science fiction. It's it creates something completely unique, which I find very fascinating, especially this comeback to this style right now that's playing with going back like getting their inspiration or adaptations from the games. Like Last of Us also had kind of similar Western feeling into it. I can't say it was just like this one with direct references to Western, but yeah, this comeback is very fascinating and interesting, and I think it's worth mentioning. Also, this I told you before that I what I like about apocalyptic movies or stories and novels is and their similarities to Western is this outlaws that come back and like they try to start this new civilization, building up civilization from the ruins or right from the start. And just because Western went through like different decades, had different styles, and history had its touches on the cinematic genre, similar, like parallel to sci-fi, they both grow together and same changes happen to both genres, and when they come together they create this very unique world of outlaws trying to have like the vigilantes and this look back at the ruins of society, and are we going back to what brings us here, or are we creating something totally new, or these anti-heroes of sort that we see, for example, in Blade Runner, and we also see in Star Wars, and like with this comeback again, like with Mandalorian and everything. I think what Fallout did here and was really interesting was that they used the premise of the game, but they gave it a very new cinematic, and I told you, like, it reminded me so much of John Wayne movies just because of the way the characters are introduced. Each character is introduced separately, and their world build was so fascinating. Each of them in their own world is their own sort of hero, and their journey is so similar to very John Wayne movies that I think that I'm going to bring up as we go on through the conversation.
Excellent place to start, Yazzie. Just one point to your Blade Runner reference. Of course, the first director that they had hired was Ridley Scott when they originally put this together back in 2020. So interesting that you had that. The other influence I really felt was Terry Gilliam on this, but we'll get to that. Hi, so you were pretty enthusiastic about this show as well. So I'd like to hear your opening thoughts on it. Am I the only one who can't hear?
No, I can't hear him either.
Hi, I think your mic is off. Yeah,
He will come back. Yeah, he'll
yes,
come back.
yeah. He's got to reset. Um,
So till he comes back, can I say something? The other thing that I really like about this sci-fi western genre is because the beginning of it was these pulp magazines, and the writer was C.L. Moore, which was a woman, and she created this. She started writing her like Shambaloo stories, funny name, in Weird Tales, the magazine. And that's the other thing that got me really interested in this. And why I brought it up is because these pulp magazines, and specifically Weird Tales, had the Conan the Barbarian series started in it, which has a direct reference in the Fallout series. What was the name? Conan of Gargarian? Yeah, Conan of Gargarian. So yeah, I really like the reference because it started by a female writer. I thought I had to bring it up.
and it is interesting because this is getting the Mary Sue treatment on.
Eric, I lost you too. Oh my goodness. It's just me now. Hey everyone, it's just me. You just have to keep hearing me going on and on about the space western. Yep, I think the other host got nuked in the room.
You can't hear
Yeah,
me?
oh yeah, now I can hear you. Now I can.
Okay, something. There was an update on Clubhouse today, so we're gonna have glitches. Ty Bender is back. New York Times best-selling author Ty Bender. Your opening thoughts on Fallout?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, okay, terrific. Excuse me. Okay. Well, first of all, as I said, I liked. It's good to know about Ridley Scott, and Terry Gilliam is a very interesting thing to point up. So those are both uh, um, intriguing ideas to connect with the series. I want to start off by saying it used to be that any movie based on a video game would inevitably be terrible. Um, it was like a truism. It was not a question of, is it going to be good? It was just a question of exactly how crappy is that movie going to be based on a video game. And the paradigm has just been turned upside down with streaming, starting with The Last of Us on HBO Max, which The Last of Us is one of the greatest science fiction series, apocalypse series ever in the history of television. And and then Halo on Paramount Plus, which isn't The Last of Us, but it's quite good. I really enjoyed both seasons so far, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Um, and then this, which is also superb. So now all of a sudden, it's like if you've got a TV series based on a video game, the question isn't going to be is it going to be good, but how great is it going to be? So I just think it's very interesting. The paradigm's been turned upside down, and that's wonderful. it's a it's a wonderful, surprising change, and I also think that this is giving new legitimacy to video games. Video games are already doing just fine financially. I think they make more money than movies do. But gamers have always felt a certain stigma. And, The Last of Us, Halo, Fallout, I think are going to make gamers feel more, um, you know, more in the mainstream, feel more that what they're spending their time on is legit art as well as entertainment. So that's the first thing I want to say about this series. It's you know when you get 3 out of 3, that's not coincidence anymore. That's a definite trend. Um, I, I thought this was delightful. Um, as Yazi said, the juxtaposition of the old West and the newness of science fiction, uh, throwing in the apocalypse to give the griminess of the old West in the future, it's always been a delightful formula. Um, I first came across it, I think, with when DC Comics put Jonah Hex uh, in in, uh, in the future. That just felt so right. Um, but yeah, it's a really winning formula because of uh, the deliciousness of the contrasts. Um, and the fact that you've got the ghoul, the cowboy ghoul, which is also a delightful mix of contrasts, and absurd to the point where I can understand the Terry Gilliam reference. Plus, you've got the man bots, the Iron Men, who basically are very similar to the soldiers in Halo, um, but having them inhabit the same world and having the ghoul actually defeat them, um, so much fun. But the thing that really nailed it for me ultimately was the ending, where they talk about what's actually going on, because that is some heavy duty stuff. And, taking the phrase fiscal responsibility and turning it into like one of the most evil phrases you've ever imagined is quite a feat. So there's so many things to appreciate about this series. I'm just going to share some bits of trivia. Um, when At the end, when Lucy, uh, uh, when the code is entered, when I'm trying not to give away too many spoilers if I can avoid it, but at the end, someone needs to enter a code, and the code that's entered is 10/10/97. That is the release date for the original Fallout game. So I thought that was cool, and it shows a respect for the original series. In fact, Todd Howard, who is a director at Bethesda Game Studios, served as an executive producer on the show. So I haven't played the game, but from everything I've read, uh, there is tremendous respect shown and tremendous integrity towards the source material. The story is original, but the world is the game world, and that they did a fantastic job of being true to it. And that's great. It's the same thing that made the Marvel movies great, especially early on, was they had a respect and love of the source material, and they were determined to to do it justice on a big screen. And I think that was the case here for this TV series. Um, let's see. Oh, the oversized packs that the squires carry for the knights is reportedly a joke, and a video game joke, because if you play video games where there's a lot of items to collect, you can end up becoming overwhelmed with all the items you've gathered. So it's like an inside gamer's joke that the squire is carrying this unbelievably large amount of stuff around for the night. Um, the video, the Vault Boy imagery is delightful. It reminds me of some of the imagery in things like Loki, and that origin is reportedly going to be revealed at some point in the future. Um, this is something I don't know if this has any meaning, but there's a lot of stuff about the left foot. Um, the initiate's foot is damaged by razor blades, keeping him from becoming a squire. The scientist has a prosthetic foot. Lucy loses her left boot to a gulper, and the squire number 2 has his left foot crushed. So something about the left foot, I don't know if it means anything, but there's that. And
I do have the answer to that high when you're.
oh, awesome. Let me just see if there's not much else. Let me see. Filming for the Super Duper Mart. It happened in Staten Island at the end of July 2022. It was a closed down ShopRite that they dressed up, and the Super Duper Mart was visible from the main road. So that's kind of cool. And finally, the series ends with a shot of a New Vegas skyline, indicating season 2 will at least partially take place on the New Vegas Strip. So those are my comments and thoughts based on just a little bit of research, mostly from IMDb.
Thank you, Hi. Can everybody hear me okay? Because
You
I guess
sound
the
great.
app is glitchy today. Okay, the app is glitchy today, so we will just have to tolerate. I have actually a lot of history with Fallout because I raised children between 2000 and 2020, and my son was completely obsessed with Fallout 3. Matter of fact, I can remember one spring vacation, he asked me to buy him a mod extension, and my Xbox had a child time counter, and during that precious time a divorced father has with his son, he spent 100 hours exploring a UFO on the Xbox, which at the time I was annoyed, but is now a treasured memory actually, because we had pizza, we had soda, we kind of treated it like that. But I want to mention because I spent 3 hours shitting on Chris Nolan's writing on a film called Oppenheimer, which, because of its stilted writing, was a big financial bomb and got snubbed by all the award shows. Because of course everyone agreed with me that I think he does just a marvelous job, and you can tell that he, like myself, was in some way, shape, or form, either through his own playing or through his kids, the way I was through mine, inundated with this game because he gets all of the little details right. That was Oppenheimer. That was the big bomb, right, Yazzie?
If I'm not wrong, that was Tenet, actually, Eric.
Oh, I always get those two movies confused. Thank you. And one of them anyway. But
Not that matter when it gets to like the complex narratives or just because you don't hear anything in Tenet so it doesn't really matter when it gets to the narrative. So, and especially the music, like what score is gonna matter if you're not gonna hear it well, and it's gonna get all glitchy and overlap with everything just to justify your lack of, like, you're incompetent in writing good script.
Well, in my Oppenheimer criticism, I said that the dialogue sounded, and I quote, like two NPCs in a video game trying to hold a conversation without the player. And this was the game I was actually thinking of. And quite honestly, no, for me, that didn't work in Oppenheimer. Obviously, it worked for pretty much everyone else in the world. I've given up that fight. But here it absolutely works. And the dialogue does actually feel like what I was getting from Bethesda when I was either playing the game to try and impress my son with how young and hip I could be, or listening to it, watching my son play while doing something else on the laptop, which under normal circumstances would be a bad thing, I think. But it not only does it work here, but it's done in such a tongue-in-cheek and clever manner that because I did rewatch the first episode, so I kind of verified this, that I don't see how it could have been written any other way. If you do this story dead serious, this would be just too depressing, you know. But and if you copy just the video game, it's going to be too campy. And what I really love about what he did with this series is getting all of the little details right. And and in terms of the casting, I think it's just absolutely dead perfect. And allowing the kind of uh, um, respect for the video game to guide itself and create a separate work, a separate that is distinguishable from the game, but by just honing to those details and yet remaining true to a cinematic, or in this case, television format, creating a separate piece of entertainment that I mean, I honestly went into this kind of with the feeling of watching, like, is this going to be like watching my son play that video game all those years ago? And I never felt like that at all. This is just a well-written Western, well-written sci-fi, well-written piece of post-apocalyptic fiction. And but then when we get to the kind of the more violent and over the top and grosser elements of this, the pureness of the black humor and the references that are made both visually, and this is mostly in the first 3 episodes, which I guess Chris Nolan directed himself, but the references to westerns, especially. I mentioned "Bring Me the Head" of Alfredo Garcia, and the trope of Warren Oates driving around Mexico high on cocaine with a head in a bag, collecting flies for an entire film. And how that really influenced. But even in terms of, and I know I get boring with this stuff, so I'm going to keep it to a short. But the fact that all the interiors are shot with very wide angle lenses, and all the exteriors are shot with telephoto lenses, bringing back the idea of John Ford. That when you see people leaving the vault, the framing device looks just the way he frames shots from the inside, using the depth of field behind them to create an arch, is so reminiscent. You think of that iconic shot at the end of The Searchers, or The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and uh, uh, and the rich cinematic tableau that is created here mingling with the fact that this is a society that shares the same history as our society up until the 1950s, and then it diverges, where our society moved on. We had a Vietnam War, we had a hippie movement, we had self-reflection. The American society stayed in that mode, and of course that was the time when most of those films came out, those type of westerns, and it combines with the music um, to really create a very complex tableau for something that is so dark and yet so funny. And uh, I was just completely blown away by how good I thought this was. But I will say I did have problems with episode 8, and we'll get to that later. But for 7 episodes, this was as good as anything that I saw on television. You know, but I'm not going to harp on, you know, the 45 minutes or so that I thought needed improvement when there are 7 hours of just excellent and like I said, I have actually rewatched the first episode already, uh, because it has that rewatchability factor. But I did want to welcome El Normo to the stage. It's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Elle. Hi, Norma.
Hey there, hey there. I'm doing great, thank you. Thanks for having me up. Um, I People were talking about it yesterday, recommended it to me, and I watched it last night, and I'm kind of blown away, although I'm also a little bit overstimulated, really. There's so many storylines, which I guess they're going to fit them together. It was just the first episode.
Yeah, no, it does. I kind of like the fact that they released this all at once, unlike Westworld, because that first episode does have so much going on. Um, I don't know if some people would have returned to it if it had taken an entire week. Like, I can remember having a hard time getting into Westworld because the first episode, kind of slow moving, has a lot of different plot elements going, and because I happened to have watched it first time on one of these marathons that HBO would have on a Sunday, I moved on to the next episode, and then when it really starts rolling, I got into the series, and I think Amazon made a good decision by releasing this as an entire 8-hour block as opposed to having a week in between, quite honestly. But you've got
I
more.
agree. I just, Eric, you promised you'd explain the left foot, and you didn't do that.
Oh, the left foot. That's a real simple one. In the first Fallout 1, that you could only play on PC, nobody had a left. You never saw anybody's left foot because that's how it was animated. You only saw people's right feet, and so if they were walking, you saw a foot, you saw a leg, you saw a foot, and you saw a leg, you saw a foot, and there never was a left foot. So it's a joke reference to that.
That's absolutely hilarious. I'm so glad to know that. God bless you for knowing that.
Well, and
Thank you.
it had to do with the limitations of computer animation at the time. Of being able to realistically, also, if you look at the boots and how they kind of look like large at the end, that's how the boots looked, because it was just, that at the time that was just the limits of animation. But El Normo, your
Oh,
thoughts on the first episode? Oh, go ahead, Yazzie.
no. I'm curious to know what Norma has to say, and then I just wanted to follow up your conversation. You were saying something about the world built. That's what I was going to continue. But now, first, I want to hear what Norma was going.
Um, so I'm enjoying it on a lot of levels. I've never played the game, but I have to I take a meeting with my video game consultant, who is my 21-year-old son, who thinks about these things on a very deep level. Um, the I was very moved by the setup. Um, from LA into the vaults and the flash of nuclear explosion, weirdly timed to coincide with the bombardment of Israel. It's just a coincidence, but it was obviously, for me, it was unavoidable. Um, and um, the Well, look, it's Jonathan Nolan, so you compare it to Westworld, and um, the humor is just tremendous. I think the sort of the ironic uh, sort of period references. I wonder how women, by the way, responded to the those summer dresses. They've actually made an impact on me. I mean, they were so prominent that it made me think about how important costumes were to storytelling. They were really prominent in the opening sequences. Um, and then I think obviously the juxtaposition of the cowboy, the guy dressed as a cowboy with his uh, African American daughter, like hopping on a horse and riding off into the future. Um, Again, I just a terrific setup. I don't fully understand what happened in the big fight scene. I guess between Vault 33 and what was it, Vault 32, which were really composed of what, like mutants from the surface world or something?
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that's something that gets explained in later episodes, though. So yeah,
Yeah,
just keep watching, Norman. Yeah, that you didn't miss anything. You're not supposed to know.
yeah. Well, plus I'll have my consultant as well to explain the whole thing to me. He had to explain a lot of things to me from Game of Thrones as well, having also read the book, which I didn't do. I love the the protagonist. I think she's both pretty and funny, which is like a massive win-win for me. Um, the person who recommended it to me somehow omitted the incredibly important point that there's a character named Norman there. I don't know if you guys caught it or missed it, but obviously that's very important to me. Do you remember the little brother, older brother, but he's little in stature, who hid under the table,
Yeah,
named Norman?
the most curious character in the whole series, to be honest.
Very interesting,
Yeah, and
Norman.
very very important to the ending of the show too. So definitely keep an eye on that kid.
The ending
But
to the series?
to this season, absolutely. He's
Wow.
yeah. A matter of fact, my son is named Cooper, which is of course the name of Walton Goggins' cowboy, and you're Norman, and those are the two most important characters uh, to the end of the show. So
Coincidence? I don't think so.
yeah, well, agree to disagree. Atheist for life. Yo yo yo.
No, I don't mean that it was. I'm obviously. It's obviously a coincidence, so I'm just making a joke out of saying the opposite of the obvious. The uh, I liked how bloody and explicit it was. That I found that satisfying. It wasn't sort of lightened up for television. Um, I was talking with some of my friends about the effects. I think are tremendous. I mean, the production value is just great, and well, there's so much I don't understand. Then suddenly it's like a Full Metal Jacket, right? All of a sudden we're in Full Metal Jacket, and I don't, and it's certainly very compelling. I guess I will understand what's going on there with the what do you want to call those sequences?
The
Uh,
Brotherhood of Steel is the
oh
name.
yeah,
Is
thank you. Of course, the Brotherhood of Steel, and there's a what's the third thread? There's a third one,
the
right?
Enclave, and the Enclave is this kind of Illuminati type group of industrialists who had arranged all of this at the beginning. And the scientist, we don't know, you don't know what he's escaped with, but he's injected a secret into his neck. And and then there's the California Federation, which is an attempt by people who had left the vault to resettle California, is also attempting to get their hands on the scientist. So yeah, that's all of the players in the first episode.
Are those guys like white supremacists or something? I sort of dimly remember. I think I fell asleep after the thing. Like
No,
it kind of entered my dreams.
it's no. They're more like a cult. They're like a religious cult.
Yes.
But I can see why you'd say that, because because the one black character is getting beaten up by a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But that gets explained later as just kind of their hazing ritual.
Oh.
But yeah,
And
no,
they
it's not race based.
Okay. And they put him through that test. Like they put him through the loyalty test. Oh, then there's then there's the Transformers. And that's pretty interesting too.
Yeah, the power armor. And I don't remember if it was in the first episode when Cooper is talking about when he was fighting the Chinese in Alaska, that power armor had a fatal flaw in it that cost a bunch of his men, when he was a Marine, their lives. And but what the Brotherhood of Steel's commitment, their religion is based upon reclaiming pre-apocalypse technology and either keeping it out of the wrong hands or getting it into the right hands to try and help re-civilize the world 200 years after the atomic bomb has destroyed the country.
Wow, right. Now, he's been buried underground the whole time? Like how do they bring him back to life? How do they reanimate
He's
him?
not
Was he a
actually
prisoner?
unanimated. There's it's a blink and you miss it, but he's actually got 2 IVs with what are called stim packs keeping him
I saw
alive.
those. Yes.
Okay, and basically ghouls are immortal because they were made immortal by the radiation, and so it's very, very hard to kill a ghoul. You literally have to dismember one completely, which made them a pain in the ass in the video game. But the stim packs and other drugs keep them from what's supposedly called going feral. And this isn't in the TV series, so I can say this without having to worry about spoiling anything. But in the video game, it turns out those drugs do absolutely nothing. They're just hallucinogens, and that the ghouls have all been convinced that they'll go what's called feral without them. But what has actually happened is they've become addicted to them, and what they're experiencing when they're supposedly going feral is actually just withdrawal symptoms. So, and I don't know if they'll work that into season 2, but that's not mentioned in the show.
That's a cool plot detail. They did mention the term going feral, but I didn't fully understand what it meant. That term came up, but I don't remember how.
That's the first of 2 scenes with the chickens, with chickens, and chickens are also a very important part of bottle caps, and chickens you are the 2 things you're always collecting when you first start any of these games. And the second time, of course, is when Maximus comes and saves a guy who's getting beaten up, and the guy who was beating him up says, "He was trying to fuck my chickens." Which I told you, I warned Yazzie, I'm going to ask this question: how does one fuck a chicken? I don't know. I don't know. But Yazzie,
that's the power of mutation. That's the power of mutation, and one of the darkest things that we drag with ourselves to the apocalyptic world some of the, the flaws that we cannot deny and we cannot ignore, I think.
But it is Yazzie pointed out that that's a very theater of the absurd kind of she said that could come straight out of Endgame or Waiting for Godot kind of a line. Hey, he was trying to fuck my chick, and that's where I think like the I keep coming back to the Terry Gilliam influence on this world. I think about Brazil, which is kind of set in the 1940s, but also set in the present day, the alternate reality, how it mixes the old fashioned tube technology and thing, which is all straight from the video game, but then Nolan doubles down on that by using wide angle lenses almost exclusively for the interiors, and then shooting almost all of the exteriors with telephoto lenses, which Gilliam used the wide angle lens for pretty much everything. But one of the things that does when you're doing a lower budget TV series is it makes these small sets seem huge. So when he's got that big wide angle lens, you get a sense of the aircraft hangar being this big aircraft hangar when it's probably just some corner somewhere over in an Amazon studio. And that's why I say I love the first 3 episodes best, because Nolan really has a great sense of lensing, framing, and what have you, that harkens back to these other apocalyptic or dystopian pieces of fiction, and also the American Western, that really, along with the music and along with the set design, puts you in the logic of this show, which, I don't care if something doesn't make sense outside of the logic of the medium that it's in, but within the logic of what has been explained to us and what we see, this all works and this all makes sense. And where I think the show breaks down, and luckily, Norman, you haven't gotten to this point yet, is when it starts getting into the kind of CGI monsters and green screen technology and things like that, because for a moment I feel taken out of it. But then episodes 5 and 6 really redeem that by going back into the vaults for what feels like an English Ealing comedy in the middle of this show, where they return to a vault filled with just very, very comic characters. But the thing is, you don't realize that it's comic at the time because it feels very suspenseful until all of the explanations come, and like some of the jokes, like instead of calling her Lucy, he keeps calling her Goosey, and he has one eye in the middle of his forehead, and he to try and read her name puts a pair of double lenses glasses on, as if that's going to somehow allow him to see better. Said nope, it still says Goosey, and these jokes right here, and it's perfectly timed, because of course right before that you're at the really bleakest part of the show, where you're basically seeing a bunch of people chasing a disembodied head that's gaining flies on it and starting to rot, and you have this nice slice of life comedy that involves oysters and bathrobes I wonder, Hai and Yazzie, as people who've seen the entire show, one of the things that I really admired is that it was able to switch tones like that without actually making it feel like it was moving from, it didn't feel like I was in a different show. But I'd like to hear you guys comment on that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say by saying like the most I think the most compelling aspect of the show is the world building. It's visually and from the storytelling perspective, because visually it plays again to that aspect that I was very interested in, the western aspect and the sci-fi western aspect of it, because when we are watching a western, the first thing that strikes is though is are those, the landscape. And there, that on that there's this famous quote from John Ford that he says that, yeah, it's not very hard to make westerns because we have an empty canvas, which is the landscape, and we can, and the desert and the sand, and we can throw everything inside it. But just like what you said with John Ford, what is so stunning is the way that he creates these frames and the compositions and blockings and everything. And what was so striking to me watching this show, actually, but less, more and less, because Jonathan Nolan, he's good at it. He knows what he's doing. And right at the end of the first episode, I said, okay, so this guy knows exactly what he's doing, because he is using this world with this sand and this empty landscape to the point that everything is in its right place. Every frame is perfect. What you said about using the lenses and the indoors and the outdoors, so perfectly depicted. When we are in the landscape, and this sense of western, this sense of uh, you know and I told you, like, I felt the missing horses, but still these lone anti-heroes, this antagonist or protagonist, these people through this journey, they're walking into this desert, and they're walking into different universes. And it's like, the feeling that the growth of each character happened when they were walking. Like for Lucy, when she get out of the vault, she entered this empty space, and then she entered that, like, with the what was his name, like in Philly, and with those that magnificent scene, the shootout scene, and everything. Each step, each world that she enters, she gains something, she learns something, and then she enters another level. So I told you, like, this, what makes an adaptation from a game fascinating and interesting is why we like games, because we are interacting with the characters. So what happens here is that each character enters a new world, and in that world they learn something, they gain something. It's like they gain HP, they higher their level, they gain strength, so they go to the next level. Whether it's like Lucy, that she's facing the reality of the world and she's getting out of her naivete and everything and knows what the real world is like, or whether it's like Ghoul, that he used to be in that utopia and he had fame and everything, and now he still has his fame, but it changed shape, just like his face did, just like his powers did. Like his powers were different. Now he's wearing a new skin, just like in a game, and he is walking through this new world. And each step, he is like having companions. He still wants a dog. That's what he brings with himself from his past, that is very well depicted through the, like, flashbacks that I really like. And at the right place, at the right episode. It wasn't very early, it wasn't very late, it was at its right time. So this growth with each character gave the I think gave us, the audience, the same feeling of game interaction, that we are kind of involved in their growth. And it was so parallel with the world that they enter, and that's what I really like. And also this as you mentioned, it was so good through this power of cinematic and everything. It wasn't, the thing with, for example, Halo, is that it's all CGI, it's all special effect, and the costumes won't change. The character growth is has the world that they enter is already presented to us right at the first season through the first 3 episodes. So we're not going anywhere with these characters. We already know where they were, and we kind of know where they're going to. But what is very successful here is that we are going with them through their journey, and this interaction that is like kind of similar feeling to the gameplay.
Yeah, in a way, cinematically, it's a picturesque, isn't it? And or like a Candide's journey, in a way.
Exactly.
But I did, since you mentioned the dog, I did want to bring up the woman I watched the series with is the same person I watched Anatomy of a Fall with, and Our Man in Havana, and she turned to me and she's like, "That dog's gonna die, isn't he?" And I said, and I have done either played or watched my son play, 9 of these games, and I was like, "Yeah, but he's gonna come back. He always does."
Yeah, and then
And
the other thing that El mentioned that was so interesting, that he says about, like, are these people and the white supremacy, and about the black characters. I think that was a very nice, very subtle, like, again, like pop culture references. I think to Romero's movies, to the zombies, and how Romero treats his African American and black characters, especially in Night of the Dead, that has pretty similar premise to this show, which is like, yeah, there is this, the apocalypse is happening, and there is this military and kind of scientific underworld, group of people that are working on something, and who is gonna like rise out from these group, and what's gonna happen, and the question of the apocalypse energy, and all the experiments that they're doing on real people, and like live uh, animals and everything, animal testing their creations. And I think that what El saw, that he saw that there is a kind of, the the discrimination and everything, but it's so well played in the show. And again, I think it was because of the world build, because that it was not so on the nose, and it wasn't rubbing it on our faces, which was a power to the show.
I think it'd be a good idea to kind of stick to the first episode, because maybe we can just come back to this in a different room in the future, because and talk a lot about that world building. And so, like when we first meet
Well,
Cooper,
let me
you go
first of
go
all
ahead, Hi.
answer your question, because
Oh,
I thought
sorry.
it was an interesting question about craft. Uh, so yeah, this doesn't have the Our Man from Havana problem of not knowing how to manage shifting tones. I think one key difference is that it's not being marketed or packaged as a comedy. It's being packaged as a drama with considerable comedic elements. And I think that that's the expectation that works. If you're going into something uh, with the understanding it's going to have substantial dramatic elements, and it's also going to have comedy interlaced, then that you can have extremely dramatic things happen and still not throw off the series up to a point. For example, if a dog had actually died, that could have that could have thrown us out of a series. So it has lines that it won't cross, but it's got a lot of freedom within those lines. So I think the moral is basically, if you're going to be doing this kind of thing, be careful to not build it as a comedy, or don't start something as a comedy and then change genres midway through. This is a blend of genres, but it's a fairly consistent blend all the way through. And so I think that's why this doesn't have the tonal shift problems that our man from Havana, our man in Havana does. Eric, does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, no, that does. I of course disagreed with you and thought that the tonal shifts completely worked, but I also did understand why they didn't for you in Our Man from Havana, which this is a lot darker comedy. Because of, like you said, it's kind of set up more as but that then again, I think you also get a lot more leeway in a dystopian environment, that because your audience is automatically thinking very, very dark when you go in. But I did want to talk about what Yazzie was talking about in terms of world building, and talk about the two versions of Cooper, the ghoul versus the cowboy. And when we first meet Cooper, the amount of information that is transferred to us, uh, we know he has been labeled a quote unquote pinko, that he went from being a high paid actor in the, like, I think he's supposed to be based on Audie Murphy because he's a former Marine, to having to do children's birthday parties. And it's mentioned that he has to do it to pay for his alimony for his divorce from his wife. And then we see his, in flashbacks, his the relationship with his wife. But then we also see him 219 years later as a zombie with no nose. And so, when you talk about world building, that is world building par excellence, because, of course, think of all the questions you're going to ask. Like, how did this perfectly good marriage break up? Um, how was a cowboy actor labeled a quote unquote pinko? And just when you start to ask these questions, a nuclear bomb goes off, and you get that great shot of him going, escaping with his daughter on the horse. But in one of those other blink as you miss it things, there is actually a billboard advertising a vault. And so, and it's not answered in the series, so this isn't a spoiler, but I wonder if somehow or another he made it to that vault. And so, in season 2, depending on his mother's influence, perhaps his daughter got into one of those cryo chambers and she's still around, because of course, the one thing he says he's looking for is his family. And talk about world build, and that's why I said again, I really like the fact that Amazon released this all as 8 episodes, because I don't think that would have worked 1 week at a time, because I think that would have been too much for me a week later to have to catch up with. It seems to me, this is just a theory based on what I saw, but it seemed to me like maybe they had planned on releasing the first 3 episodes at once, because you don't have the previously on until episode 4, and then going 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But I'm glad they released it all at once, because I was able to kind of stay in that world for, I think it took me about 2.5 days to watch this, and I didn't get distracted by other things and then come back to it. So the mystery was still fresh to me. But Yazzie, what did you think of that? Or would you have rather been able to stretch this out over 8 weeks so we could have 8 different rooms on it?
I that doesn't make any difference to me, but I'm normally a fan of weekly releases. I think that binge watching kind of made us a little bit lazy, and like raises expectations, and there are very, very good weekly releases that just because they are not played to this kind of mass binge watch uh, taste that people have right now, they kind of get ignored. But there's still very good shows that they're out there. They're kind of doing a very good job, but being ignored just because mostly because the people that are writing reviews and analysis these days are, sadly, they're YouTubers. And the film review and critic turned into short, like, four sentences in Twitter, or people don't sit and read the good articles that come out, and good reviews. So, and what they like, what those YouTubers like, they like to binge watch and then give, like, find Easter eggs that they actually kind of get the meaning of Easter egg totally wrong. But anyway, and that's what they like. And there is no depth. But if you get a show on weekly basis, so each week you have this time to sit on it and reflect on it and think about it, and maybe you figure out that there is something more than an Easter egg, or just at at 1 year, and at what time these people like meet each other at the restaurant. Maybe there are thematic depth, maybe there's something behind these scores and songs that are used in the show, maybe there are more depth to the pop culture references, just like everything that we're keep going back to. And we're saying, like, I was thinking, like, how much these what was they called, these power armors, they kind of reminded me of the movies of Paul Verhoeven and the RoboCop, and Paul Verhoeven also was so influenced by the lonesome heroes and the chivalrous aspect of Western movies, and this, and not just old Western, but the spaghetti Western, and the darker heroes, and the heroes that are not just fighting to save the world because they figure out that the world doesn't worth saving, just like the Clint Eastwood characters on the movies. He finds something new to fight for. And I think these are the things that needs, especially for the audiences that are not used to these classics, maybe weekly releases kind of give them the opportunity to watch a few things, to reflect more on what they're watching, and appreciate more the good craft that is presented to them, and don't just come out and say, oh yeah, they just make the show woke, they just put a female character. No, she is not the protagonist of the show. The show has four similar stories with four different, like, uh antagonists or protagonists, or the main characters. There's, like, working parallel in this four different worlds, and they're coming together at the end. They're coming into the circle at the end, you know so maybe if it wasn't for the first episode, that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe people need to think and see and watch more stuff to kind of get what's presented to them.
I'd like to welcome, is it pronounced Jamak? And of course, good friend of our room, Hillary, has also joined us today. Is it Jamak? Am I pronouncing that correct?
Hillary.
Yeah, that's close enough. Yeah. Hello.
Have you seen the show?
I just finished watching it yesterday. So it's quite fresh. Has everyone finished it?
El Normo is the only one, and we'll just tell him to cover his ears.
No,
no,
I haven't finished it. I've only
Oh.
finished the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
I got through it so quickly, so I can't even remember, like, exactly what like if like what happens in the second, so I can't because I don't want to spoil it. But
I'm not as worried about spoilers for this because I this is such a bizarre show that what are you really spoiling? Quite honestly, just
yeah,
I
did you?
think if you stay away from the New Vegas revelation, you know what I'm talking about with Kyle
Well,
MacLachlan's
just
character.
don't go there. Just say,
Yeah,
I, I
just
think,
stay
I
away
think
from that.
for the sake of Hillary, we can kind of mostly talk about, generalities and the first two episodes.
I think we definitely need to have a follow up episode once everybody's up to date. But I wanted to get the ball rolling on this while it's still hot, so to speak. If we were to schedule this a couple of weeks down the line, but I was kind of afraid it would just get kind of fade into the woodwork.
No, it's great. It's great you did it, and we've got a nice turnout. Hillary, what did you think so far?
So there are some nightmare moments. I have had 2 different nightmares about the razor blade and the shoe scene. Like, seriously, like, did mess. My son is in the room with us as well. He's a little kitty cat right there. He's really a boy, I promise. Um, but we sat down to watch it. He watched it straight through. I actually wound up falling asleep, but don't think I've like cringed and like turned away from a screen so much in years. I can't think of the last movie that did that for me. But dude, it is like there's some graphic scenes that are like psychologically like really fuck with you. There's the whole in the first episode there's a whole trolley paradox, I mean just it's oh my gosh. Yeah. It is a psychological roller coaster and I think it was done very, very well.
I wanted to get back to Jamaica for a moment, yeah. So again, we we're trying to avoid spoilers as much as possible. But in general, what were your thoughts on it? And also, did you notice the cliche? The very first person that you see dead is a black man.
I didn't notice that,
He's
but I thought
he's pinned to the vault door
one of the Raiders.
when the
I
Raiders come
mean,
in, he's pinned to the
yeah,
vault door with knives. And at that moment, I almost turned it off because I was like, "Oh, Chris Nolan, really? Did you go there?" But he definitely redeems himself later, I think, with the depth of the Maximus character.
yeah. No, I thought I mean, what I love the show. I love the game. Like the game's probably one of my favorite games ever. So I already knew the source material. I knew what was like the beats of the story. It's gonna be like what would happen. So I enjoyed it, I'd say, but I had high expectations for it, and it probably hasn't like it's not as good as what I thought maybe. But for just like an Amazon big budget kind of show that's meant to have mass appeal, I think they did it well. Like I think people that are not into the game would probably watch it and enjoy it. And the the aspect Hillary said, like the gore and stuff. So if you've been more familiar with the game, I think the gore is it's I think they put a lot of that in just for the viewers, like because they get in the game they get like you break your arm a lot, but then like you just take like a stim pack and then your arm is healed again. So I don't know, it's gonna be awkward how they
I'm kind of
do that in
glad
the
that
game.
they didn't include that element too much. They refer to it because it's kind of like the elephant in the room. Like get me a stim pack or what have you. But you see characters die, so there's still stakes. Whereas if you could just take a stim pack every time you were injured and everything was going to be hunky dory, there'd be no stakes in anything. So I think they handled that very well, didn't you?
Yeah. The I think I like the story of the girl, and I'd say the Brotherhood, I don't remember them being so religious, like and like the religious zealots. But I thought they were kind of cool from what I remembered. But I'm not big fan of the past stuff.
So you must be Fallout 4 must have been your favorite then, because they weren't really as culty in Fallout 4.
I think it's got recency, so I might remember it the most. But I think I did prefer. I think 3 and New Vegas were I think
Yeah,
I
those are my two
preferred those.
favorites as well. Although I did like 76, but it was more because my son and I were able to we were living in two different states and we could play it together. So but as a game, I don't know if it was all that great. It was just I like the interactive part of it.
Yeah. What about the thoughts on we're getting a lot of backstory? Like we're getting way more backstory than I think has been in. Well, from what I know off the top, we're getting more backstory that has been in any Fallout ever.
Well, yeah, but a lot of that lore, I think, is from the game. It's all the stuff that you read when you were searching through the manuals or when you were accessing the computer files. So just to kind of set it up for people who never played the game, this is hinted at in the series, but when they made these vaults and turned them over to the heads of all the major corporations they set up 17 what were called control vaults for management. So these are just actual survival vaults. And the rest of them are just experiments by these corporations. So, for instance, the vaults are made to look like spaceships so that a company that could make spaceships would see whether or not they could escape to a different planet if human beings were able to spend several generations locked inside a spaceship. Another vault, they took a bunch of people who were very anal retentive and put them in it, and then left the front door unsealed so that radiation would leak in, and the entire vault turned out to be all the kind of ghoul characters like Cooper turns in, and so the experiment was to see how ghouls would work together as a society and things like that, and that's all part of the lore of the game. But I think it's all the backstory is there, especially I think it was Fallout 4 that had the very long prologue. But and of course, each and every Fallout it begins with "War never changes," and so you have the Sino-American War over resources, and the backstory is that instead of going down the path that our culture did with a Cold War, America set up a consumer society based on atomic science and had really embraced atomic energy, but that then, just like oil, they began to run out of uranium because they were using so much, and this created the resource wars that in 2077 led to a war with China that ended up with nuclear bombs being exchanged. But anyway, so I think it is all there. It's just in a series, you're not going to have somebody looking at it up on a computer and finding out that way. You've got to actually kind of explain it in some way, shape, or form.
So the thing, so I thought one of the weaker parts for me was the fact that there's these characters in the flashbacks, but then they're in. So I think the flashbacks and the timeline, it's 200 years apart, right? There's too many of them, in, that are still there for me. I feel like it's not. It's a bit too much like Hollywood and not exactly what the game was like. I think the fact that they're all interconnected kind of is a bit. I don't know.
That was
Maybe I'm
really
just looking at
unnerving
it
for
too
me, who has
much.
not played the game. That was one of the parts. Like I didn't. It was so much in the story, in the story, in the story. You know what I mean? Like the story of the story of the story. I got really lost in it. So perhaps I should go play the game before finishing watching the series, because that really did bother me a lot. I didn't know, it was bouncing around so much. I didn't really understand why and where, and you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I'd like
that's
to.
actually the
Oh, go
point
ahead.
that the show kind of redeems itself quickly. On the third episode, you're gonna figure out exactly who's there and who's where and what's going on. So don't worry, just stick to it. It's just the
What
first and second
Westworld did
episode.
the same
When they
thing.
present exactly, exactly. It happens the same way with Westworld. But one other thing that again like goes back to the John Ford references that we always say is that in John Ford movies he always picked his uh foil characters, his secondary characters, very with like so meticulously, and this is exactly the same thing here. And I think the thing that they did very good here is that there is no cameo for no reason. There is no secondary character for no reason. Everyone there is
Fred
there
Armises.
for a reason. No, we're not going to mention any of them, but everyone there is for a reason, and they play a role, whether it's for like kind of lucrative, like kind of comic relief, or they play a very important role to the storyline. But don't worry,
No,
it's it all comes
I
together on
agree,
third
except for
episode.
the Fred Armises cameo, which seemed to me
Oh,
just
no,
kind
no,
of
I have
like
I have
somebody.
explanation. You said that how important you were supposed to talk about the music in the show, and Fred Armisen he actually talks about the importance of music, whether it's played on a digital format or the LP format or everything, and he starts talking about it and
And
explaining.
yet
So
the
I think
sound is
yeah,
absolutely horrifying, and it's a great joke.
horrifying,
And
yes.
and it's a you know.
So let's welcome Ryan and Danny.
Well, Ryan is Hillary's child, and she seems to have raised him very politely because he hasn't interrupted us once, which normally a good thing. But in a clubhouse
I'll
room,
interrupt. I'll interrupt quickly. I just wanted to reiterate, uh, Hillary. I think the way they designed it was for the first 3 episodes to be watched together, and then you can watch subsequent episodes at your leisure. But I think to kind of get a grip on what's going on, you're supposed to watch the first three as a kind of a block. So I just want to basically reinforce what's been said there. But watch a third episode, and then if at that point you feel, okay, I want to keep going, do. And if you feel it's not for you, you can stop. But I thought it was a fantastic series.
I
Uh,
loved it up until the point where I fell asleep, but that was just pure exhaustion. That wasn't. It wasn't because the show was boring me or anything like that. It was just really, really late. I was really tired.
well, you do a ton of things, so I'm not at all surprised that you have bouts of exhaustion. You do you do the work of three people, but give it. I think you'll like it. Um, and yeah, Ryan, we would love to hear from you. Um, don't be shy.
Sorry, I didn't want to like steal anyone's thunder. I felt like the main thing about the game uh is all of the details that were added into the show. And when it first starts playing, my mom asked me like a crazy ton of questions, and my main response was look at the game, or I'd explain something in the game. And that's the main thing about the show is it's related to the game. You can't exactly watch Halo and off rip know every single reference to the game, like the soldiers, Master Chief, the little nose ring thing that he has to drag him behind whenever uh, he gets hurt. You can't automatically understand that by not playing the Halo games, and so that was one of the main things. And uh, a game that I do recommend playing in the Fallout thing is Fallout Shelter, because it's free and you don't have to spend 60-40 bucks on it, and it teaches you about the vault, the mutants that you encounter, the stim packs, the people that you have to send over, the cola, everything in the game for completely free. It's on just about every single platform. Uh, and so I seriously recommend that game if you know nothing about the games uh, like Fallout 1, 2, 3, 4, 76.
Or you can just borrow my kid. I'll send him over there anytime. Anytime.
There's always that.
Or just watch a YouTube video. Dan A, I wanted to welcome you to the stage as well. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You're close. It's Danai. Hey guys.
You're gonna have to repeat that.
Saw...
You blacked out, and I want to get your name right.
Whoops, sorry. Can you hear me?
I can. Just repeat your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I'm not gonna move. Danai. You were close.
Your thoughts?
You know, you guys pulled me into this room with the title. So my son, who is now 21, he's in college, and he lives at home while he's going to school. He's the last one I've got, right before. So, backstory: he's the last one before Empty Nest sets in, and when he was younger, when he was a teenager, and even through junior high, he used to love to play Fallout. He was crazy about that game. Like, he would play it nonstop. And I'm not a gamer, so I couldn't relate. But I did, like, he would tell me a lot about the storyline, and he would tell me, he would show me some of his gameplay, and I would sit through it. And I really enjoyed the fact that, like, he was, being introduced to, like, all of these old school tunes and the music. So that was really cool about it. And then we started watching the series together. We finished it, and I loved it. I had him narrating the whole thing for me, telling me about the storyline and how everything was related with everything. So I won't do any spoilers, but it was a great way for us to connect, like, his gaming world with, us just watching something together. When you have a 21-year-old son, he doesn't generally want to spend a lot of time with mom. So this is a really cool bonding experience for us. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the series. The series was bananas to me. I loved it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. That's how I got through got into Fallout, was through my son, whose name is Cooper, just like the cowboy, as well. So we have that in common. But I actually sat down and played Fallout 3 and 4, and my son and I played the Fallout 76 together, and went all the way through it. They have it set up kind of like Fortnite, where you can have a group of friends play together for the Fallout 76, and it's not as good as 3 and 4. But funny story, back in 2000, and I think it was 13, when my son was a mere 11-year-old lad, obsessed with Fallout 3. He really wanted to play the Fallout New Vegas, and I bought him a copy of it, and sent him to his mother with it, and his stepfather, who's a game obsessed, sat down with him, and was like, "Oh my God, you've got the new Fallout! I want to play it!" And played it for about half an hour, and he said he had paid for prostitutes 4 times before he realized that it was just too inappropriate for an 11-year-old child. And I was like, "Oh crap!" So I looked like the worst divorced dad in the world. But on his 14th birthday, I had to go out and buy an Xbox One, because the only way you could get Fallout 4 was for Xbox One. They were not releasing it for the Xbox 360, and so it is Fallout that brought us into the next century of gaming. Because of course I would have put that off for, well, pretty much ever, if I had been able to get away with it. But yeah, so yeah, we share that in common. My son was also born in 2000. Well, my son was born in 2001, so he's actually 23 now. So yeah. God, it's funny how that creeps up on you.
It does creep up on you. That game definitely like reminded me how recent it was that he was that young and he was playing it.
Yeah, it is too bad about New Vegas, but it's also very interesting that the show makes New Vegas um, canon, because of course it hadn't been, because it wasn't made by Bethesda Studios. It was made by the original Fallout creators. Uh, but that the very last shot is of a bombed out New Vegas, and that tells us that there's a lot going on. You know that usually I don't look forward to second series, because if you look at what the second series of Westworld was, it was a very big disappointment. The second series of The Mandalorian was a very big disappointment. But I'm really actually looking forward to the second series of this, because there's just so much material to be mined. No pun
Don't agree
intended.
about Mandalorian. Sometimes, look,
Maybe I'm thinking of
Godfather.
the third. Maybe I'm thinking of the third series, which was the one that had Jack Black. That was the disappointing one for me.
Yeah, the second one was fine. And then you've got like Godfather Part Two, which some feel was better than the first one. It varies. There's no hard and fast rule. Um, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward. This was great. I'm definitely looking forward to the next season. And as we were saying previously, part of what's amazing is how consistent and and even this is. The the tone, the wit, the action, the it's a very well thought out ride that they're putting us on. And in terms of, I'm going to say this out spoil. I'll just say I found the arc of the main character to be satisfying, because in some ways it's what we were promised, and in some ways it wasn't. And I thought it really worked well. There's just so much intelligence and thought and care and detail that went into this series. Just like, Eric, I'm going to think about what you were kind enough to reveal about the left foot. That's going to stick with me for months because almost nobody's going to know that if they're not really into the trivia of a game. But that's an amazing Easter egg. And it makes me how much love goes into a series that they have that in there for only a fraction of people to actually get. That it's just amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a few other things. The two-headed bear on the New California flag, for instance, is an in-joke reference. You never fight a two-headed bear in the games, but there was there was a cutscene from an earlier version of Fallout before the company that originally made it went bankrupt, and it got bought out by Bethesda, who created Fallout 3 and made it completely different, where there was supposedly a two-headed bear was the boss level, so to speak. And the fact that they put that on the California flag, the show is filled with in jokes like that, which, as Yazzie pointed out, were put there for this new breed of YouTube commentators and influencers to make themselves look smart online to some extent, but to another extent, I think there's going to be a generation that comes to this video game through this series who are then going to see those references run across them in one way, shape, or form as well. Who maybe don't watch YouTube spoiler videos and influencer culture, and we all know how I feel about the death of actual criticism, and I'm not going to to beat that particular dead horse again today. But I think that the fact that they took the care to put those in there is something that is going to make this series last a very long time and probably extend the the uh, the lifespan of this game franchise because they took a very big risk by allowing this to be made. If you remember what happened to the Doom game after that horrible movie version of Doom came out, uh, people started associating it with that movie, and it just that and the company that made it that just had to get rid of it. And when you look at the very popular games, most of them turn down either TV series or film adaptations of their most popular titles because that's a huge risk that you take. But um, Nolan was able to sell them on the fact that he was going to be able to make a product that would actually enhance the original series. And then, in my mind, and I think so far from what I've heard, except Hillary, who's only been through the first episode, I think he succeeded. But Gemak, as someone else who's played the game extensively, how do you rate how they took care of the little details? The fact that the colors match exact the vault uniform colors is the same exact yellow and blue. You know the Nuke Cola, the mark, the abandoned market, the dog, all of it.
Oh yeah, that I think that was probably my favorite, like Easter egg, I guess you could call it. But yeah, the dog was so Cooper left, or the ghoul left the dog in the specific location that he's found in the game, and then the
What are the name of
terminal,
those gas stations? I'm just having one of those
the Red Rocket,
Clubhouse. Red Rocket. Thank you.
the
I was
Red
having
Rocket,
one of those brain burps
yeah,
I only get on Clubhouse.
and then
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as a Philly girl, like from Philadelphia, Red Rocket is something like it's the name of the chain restaurant in Philadelphia. But I know that this is Philly with F in the show, and I think also in the game. But I think that and the Red Rocket, the setting of it, it's quite similar to the restaurant. So I found that also something related to the real world. A kind
yeah.
of good joke.
And then the name as well, I think he names it. Well, he doesn't name it, but he calls it dog meat after, and that's the name from the game. I think some of the parts that were cool were the like not on the nose parts as well. So like when they're hacking the terminals and stuff, and they're using it, because that's going to be like a major part of the whole. Like you can't have a Fallout show without like hacking terminals and like lock picking doors. Because that's if you go back in any of the games, you're spending about at least a third of the time just like hacking terminals, reading things, and like unlocking doors, crouching around, stealing random items. So it's driven by like a lot of those actions where you're like gathering information and stuff. But yeah, I liked the color palette a lot as well of like the wasteland. I thought it was like it just looked quite similar to the games, and I'd say yeah, it was they definitely paid attention to detail. I think they've learned as well, like with these adaptations now, because I think the Last of Us was pretty good as well. With I'd say yeah, The Last of Us was pretty much like one of one with regards to the game. But oh, sorry, yeah, I think I'd say I was pleased with it. It's just one thing, maybe the weapons we didn't get like the variety of the
Yeah, I think that was
weapons.
budgetary, quite honestly.
And yeah, we didn't get like the customization of the weapons. We got the bit when she changed her outfit when she came out of the mall, and she was like, "I've got the blood on me," so she was like a fully fledged like wasteland dweller. Like she was no longer the vault person.
And I was like, "Oh, you know nothing. You wouldn't even be able to. You haven't got enough experience points to beat a mott fly on that game."
Yeah, yeah. I think what's the whole thing. Yeah, I think the way they done the three characters was great as well, because we've got, like, say the ghoul guy. He would be considered like a high level character, so he's gonna show us things that like a basic person in that world wouldn't have. Like he'll be like killing people. He'll be have all the cool guns. He'll be doing all the dangerous stuff, and then we learn it through her eyes as well, which is just like the vault dweller, the privileged person who's been living in her bubble, and then the Brotherhood arc. But then even like going into a show, I'd say like season, if this just show goes on forever, or not forever, but for like a few seasons, there it is just a world. I think that they could pretty much pick up random characters, and I think they could tell many different stories like within the world. So like they don't even feel, I don't feel like they have to necessarily like stick with these characters from like the beginning to the end of the show, which is
No, yeah,
unique.
there's just so much material because, of course, you've got 155 vaults, and each one could have its own story. Yeah. Hey, I'd like to welcome Vernon to the stage. Hello, Vern. Long time no see.
Vern! Hi!
Yeah, actually, when I saw in the hallway, it said the room was over and that I could hear the replay. So I thought I was going to step into the replay. So I did not expect to be on the stage.
Ah, but
It's a
I
trap.
made you a moderator, so that's what happens.
Yeah, I was a moderator before I even got into the room somehow.
Well, no, you were made a permanent moderator back when we were
Got it.
doing crossover episodes. Remember, so that
Got it.
we could do crossovers with the room that you're most associated with, Understanding Movies, which is now on hiatus.
Yeah. Guess who's staying with me? Steve Crone. He's staying at my house for.
Oh, well, how nice.
So we
Well,
might.
tell Steve we all miss him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will.
For those who don't know, Steve Crone was president of what was the name of the studio that produced The Matrix? Village Roads. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely here. I want to hear what Paul, because we have Amazon, and this isn't on my radar, so I just want to hear how you guys are, mixing it up.
100% recommended. This is not like the Oppenheimer room at all. I unreservedly recommend it. Like to also welcome Matt to the stage. Matt, WBT, nice to see you.
Thank you. Good. Yeah, I've only seen a few episodes of the Fallout show over the weekend, but I like what I've seen so far, and I've played some of the games.
We're kind of sticking with the first 3 episodes to keep it spoiler free, and then I'm going to do a second episode, and then I'm going to put spoilers in the title and give people enough time to catch up, and we'll have a spoiler episode later. But if you stay within the first 3 episodes, I think all of us here have well, Hillary's only seen the first episode, but there's not too much you can spoil in the next
first 2. Hillary's seen the first 2.
Yeah. So we're really kind of sticking to that this time, just to keep the spoilers at bay.
Matt, do you have any thoughts you want to? First of all, it's great to have you in the room, and ditto for Vern. Vern, really great to see you. Matt, do you have any thoughts you want to share on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it's clever how it has the 3 different characters at the beginning and has them kind of meet up in unexpected ways, because in the games it's really important with the different sort of factions and kind of the class system, and you kind of get that across with different people's backgrounds. And I'm just glad it started, it opened and kind of gets you right in the story. It doesn't start with all this exposition. It kind of gets you into it better. But then, these are the people that did the Westworld show, and that one also did a good job kind of setting up what could be a complicated scenario pretty easily.
So you've played the games as well.
Yes.
So that good. So we've got three of us. A question for someone who's played the games in terms of and JMac had mentioned the weapon upgrades. This thing as one of these things, but I was getting kind of flashback triggered every time I saw a power core go to waste on this show because I remembered what a pain in the ass it was playing those games if you lost your power cord to get another one. Like when he trades the power cord later in the show for something that I won't spoil, I was like, oh you fool, just limp. But did you have that kind of experience where you were watching this and it reminded you of some of the things you did when you were playing the game?
It it certainly when there's a shootout and then everyone starts shooting and people's limbs start flying off in slow motion and stuff. I mean, that's very much like like the game, and sort of the setup with the father is a little bit similar to the beginning of Fallout 3. They mentioned like the water chip at the vault, which is something from Fallout 1. So I mean, there's stuff here and there, but it's not like, I think they do a good job balancing it where if you play the game, you'll notice these things, but I think it's pretty accessible, which is um, harder than it sounds given the kind of complicated setup of what's going on, because it feels like it's in an established world, which is
Yeah,
really
and there's
important.
so much lore that you would have to. And
Yeah,
I like the idea that this takes place after all of the other Fallout games, so you're not either repeating information that you already have if you played the game, or having to change the canon, change the lore in any way, shape, or form because it's creating something new. I think that they handle that very well by having it be on the West Coast as opposed to the East Coast, which is where most of the Bethesda games took place. The West Coast was more the Fallout 1, 2, and of course New Vegas. But the other thing is how do you think they handled the wasteland? Was that what you had pictured when you were playing the game? Because I can't be the only one who, when I'm playing a video game, immediately thinks of what the movie is going what the movie or TV show would look like.
I guess I'd say in the show they seem to get from place to place a lot quicker than I sort of envisioned. A lot of the especially the later games, a lot of it's just sort of walking around, and you might run into monsters or a quest or here and there, but a lot of it's just kind of emptiness. And I don't think you quite get that, but they have to get the story going. But I think,
Yeah,
other
they crossed the entire country in 2 days somehow with one, and one of them only has 1 foot.
yes, yep.
But uh, on the other hand, would you really want to watch a show of somebody just kind of trotting through a wasted version of Missouri for 2 whole episodes?
No, that's true. I think they did a good job with what they have, and I'm not sure what involvement the Bethesda, the people that make the game, had with the show, but certainly the monsters and the armor and stuff looks pretty accurate, which is nice.
Yeah, that would be my one flaw is I don't like the CGI monsters. I just don't think they look right. Especially that the sea monster, the one that swallows the head. you know to me that's kind of cut corner. But on the other hand, Yazzie has a kind of love of kind of schlocky sci-fi special effects, so maybe they did that on purpose as kind of a camp. I'm not sure.
No, but I have a suggestion just because like no one has like there are many people here haven't seen the third episode, so we cannot talk about the Peckinpah references, and I cannot talk about the complaint that I have about the ending of the show. But I have a suggestion,
Well,
like a
we'll have
follow up.
we'll have a follow-up episode next Tuesday then, if you want to.
Yeah, but I have a suggestion, like to watch an extra watch if you're interested. There is this episode of The Twilight Zone. Vern is gonna laugh right now because he knows like my thing with the Twilight Zone, and it's called Mr. Denton on Doomsday with the great Martin Landau, and he plays like this drunk gunslinger, and he has this, you know, there is a redemption to his character, but what is interesting and similar to the Cooper character here is that he he has this conflict, he has this moral dilemma that he doesn't know that he wants to still remain that classic cowboy, or he wants like just what I mentioned, like just like the character, the this shift into the western genre that happened between like with the John Wayne characters to the Clint Eastwood characters, that he thinks he's coming to this situation that he has to decide if the world that he's living in is worth saving or no, the world is not worth saving, and he has to pay attention to his own personal selfish needs, and he has to do like play it for his own sake. And it's very interesting episode. The premise is so similar to Cooper, and just like it's just because it's a sci-fi also, and just like here it's a kind of sci-fi western, a hybrid genre. I think it's very interesting. If you can find it somewhere and watch it, it's a very good addition to this for the next time if we want to talk about this room.
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll have a spoilers episode a week from now. That'll give people plenty of time to set aside 8 hours to
Oh, sorry.
watch this.
And there is one thing that is also similar to Maximus' character with this Mr. Denton, and it's this question of power. Just because at some point at this show, Maximus has this opportunity to choose between power for himself or like help the others. So this also question of power and also plays a very important role in this show and also in that episode of the Twilight.
I did want to take a moment to welcome Morgan to the room. I don't know if he can speak or not. He sometimes uses our show as kind of radio, but Morgan was instrumental when I first set up UK Cinema History in allowing me to attract an audience, and very, very encouraging. And anytime I see him, I always want to take a moment to publicly thank him. I could remember just kind of popping into rooms and him immediately taking a moment to share links to UK Cinema History and recommending the show. And so we appreciate you being here, Morgan. Anyway, well, I think we can kind of wrap this up now. Of course, with it being 8 hours long, we didn't we won't run in danger in no matter how many episodes we do of this of going as long as the series. But I'm going to go once around the room, and if you are in the audience and you weren't and didn't come on stage but do have something to say, just raise your hand and we'll get your words. But we're just going to go in PTR order here. Let me just refresh real quick. Okay. And so we'll start with Highbender. Your final thoughts on Fallout? Well, not final because we'll be doing this again next Tuesday, but your thoughts on the first 3 episodes.
Well, I want to thank you for doing this room. I want to thank Yazi, Hillary, Vern, Denai, Jamak, and Matt, and everybody else who came on stage for participating, and for everyone in the audience. We appreciate you. Yeah, I think it's cool to get together and talk about a really extraordinary series. Eric, you said that they took a risk. The the point I think is if you're going to if you're going to take a risk, by going to a different medium, make sure that you have somebody or a number of somebodies who really care about the source material and are going to do the new series with integrity and with love and respect. And I think that's very much what happened in this case. Um, Ditto for The Last of Us, and a ditto for that matter for Barbie, which was a real risk because that really deviated from the original, but in really, really thoughtful ways. So, and of course, that worked out. That was a gamble that worked out really well. I think, I think we're going to see more of this kind of thing because the payoff can be so big. I mean, in Barbie's case, it not only made over $1 billion from the film, but it rejuvenated the source material, the dolls and the dollhouses and the clothing. And I expect this series will inject new life into the video game series. So I think we're going to see more of this rather than less of this as time goes on. The danger is um, if they go overboard, they start bringing in people who don't understand the source material, who don't devote this kind of level of care. That's kind of what's happening lately in the superhero realm with Marvel putting out things like the Marvels and DC putting out stuff like Blue Beetle. Um, it's it's like let's jump on the gravy train and just churn out whatever. That's that's death. But if you're going to put in this level of care and quality, um, it's not really much of a gamble. It's just when you do adaptations to have that kind of level of thoughtfulness and that level of intelligence and talent. There is so much to admire about this series, and I just I'm really excited that it happened. That this is I've said this often. I'll say it again. We are living in the golden age of television, the most golden age of all golden ages of television is right now. It's just amazing the things we're being treated to on streamers on a regular basis. We're really being spoiled, and I'm delighted that this series exists, and I'm delighted that you and Yazi recognized that and decided to do a room about it. So thank you again for everybody for being involved in this discussion.
Thanks, Hi. Yazzie, your final thoughts. Well, your final for this week's thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Fallout.
Yeah, the only thing I can add is that when there's an adaptation, if you want to be loyal to the source material, you don't have to like be completely like respectful to what it was presented there, like you do the complete word by word adaptation of that. There is, if you find something in a great substance there, as Jonathan Nolan did, like he finds something just like what Jonathan Glazer did with the Zone of Interest. He pretty much just picked the name of that novel and he creates his own world. But how is it possible? How can you deliver such a great story that it's compelling to both, like the people who are game players or the people who just appreciate you know the uh, the series, the film, the that aspect of it is that you should, you pick something, you get your inspiration and you put your signature on it. And for putting your signature on it, you need to have enough knowledge of the material that you have in hand. And how is it possible that why I was keep trying to find like all these pop culture references to it and keep saying like all these different genres that are playing here, it's because when if you want to create an existential dread, if you want to create like the apocalypse, a social breakdown, if you want to create ethical dilemmas, for all that you need to have a very rich background of this pop culture and all, all this great things that happened before you, so that you'll be able to create this such a thing, that it's so like such a candy to the eye, like you love watching it, it's entertaining before anything else. And it's also has, like just what I said, it includes all those you know social commentaries like Romero did in his movies, like just like the other sci-fis like Silo, which is a direct references here we can find, or like the direct references from the westerns, from my Monty Python, from everything we can find it here. So you need to know, and I think it's going to be a much more greater experience if we as the audience have the same knowledge and the same experiences and like watches. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here, and like Vern used to do on his room in Understanding Movies, that we were trying to like watch some things that are forgotten gems or movies, or like try to recall the novels and the references that have their impacts on this pop culture, because pop culture is very important. It's kind of like history. You can look back at the pop culture throughout history and see all the historical events, important historical events and changes that happened in them. Whether it's Star Trek, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Outlaws, it's whether it's Twilight Zone on TV, whether it's Lost in Space, whether it's Cowboy and Aliens, we see all the long way that it comes. So I suggest, like, along the way that people are watching these series, kind of try to notice all that and go and look for them too.
Thank you, Yazzie. Hillary, your final thoughts. Okay, Hillary seems to be away from the microphone. Vern, do you think this is going to be a show you want to watch?
Yeah, when, I haven't been on Clubhouse for, I don't know, maybe it's been like a month.
More
And,
like
I was kind
3.
of running out of gas. Yeah, yeah, I don't even know what it is. And like so when Steve and I we were hanging out, he's out today. He's out now, but we hung out today. And, when Hai was talking and Yasi was talking, I was starting to get a little misty-eyed and sentimental because this is like Clubhouse at its best. And, as Steve and I were walking around, he's working on a couple of films, and so he's talking about, how, he's in the early stages, like pre-production, just kind of assembling the pieces. And like he loves cinema, and so I know he's going to do a good job, just because of his pedigree. And I think one of the reasons that I'm kind of getting off Clubhouse is, like I'm going to retire in 6 years, and I've kind of set my mind that I want to write a book or something. And I've never written anything in my life except college papers. But the way that I look at movies and the way I look at film, I have a story in me, and it's not even going to be for like publication. I'm kind of writing it to my daughters, and it's gonna go back in the past, and it's gonna go way out in the future. And like when I hear things about like Fallout, like my family and I, we just watched like the Three Body Problem, and we watched the Dune movies, and then with my youngest daughter, we went back to the 1984, and I saw Kyle MacLachlan is in this, so we'll talk about him a little bit. But also talking about the new Dune movies, and my daughter, she's 15, she just turned 15, and she's reading the book, and she bought the book like 3 years ago. She was way premature for it, but now, like when I'm watching both films, I'm like, picking them apart because there's things I love about both or all three, but then there's things that are in the books that just are completely lost in the world building. And so, it's like this conversation, like it definitely, I want to see what you guys, I actually want to go back. Did you say this room has been going on for 8 hours? You said 8 hours? Or that's how long the series is going to be?
Yeah, that's how long the series is. No,
Okay,
this
got it.
room we did go over 2 hours, so I did
Right.
fail
Yeah.
somewhat. But my
Yeah.
love of shorter rooms. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vern, understanding movies, it's not gonna happen again. Those like
Yeah.
4 hours, 5 hours talk on one
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
I
We'll probably
miss
bring
that.
it back, but I think, it's like I think before even going back and watching the series, I want to go back and listen to your discussion about it because for me that's like the most important part, is the discussion and I'll probably come
and
back next week.
we kept it spoiler free for you, Vern.
Oh, I love spoilers. I
I
love
know you
spoilers.
do. It was a joke. Yeah, it was a joke. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I
The
didn't mean to.
joke is
Okay.
that
I didn't
Vern
mean to.
likes to know every single thing that happens in a film before he'll watch it. That's like a running joke.
Yeah, and he does like 6-time rewatch.
Anyway, thanks
And we love you
for
for it, by
this.
the way.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, indeed.
DNA,
Thanks, Vern. I just want to say thanks again. Vern's really great to have you in the room. And please give Steve a hug from all of us.
Yes, indeed. I'll try to bring him back, before he comes out. We'll maybe do a pop-up room or something.
yeah, Dishwasher Diaries, the return. Dene, I'm not even. It's been too long, and I've already forgotten how to pronounce it. I am so sorry, but any final thoughts?
No worries, no worries. It's Deny, by the way. Well, first, I just wanted to say, hey, Hillary. We've been in rooms together on and off, and it's been a hot minute since I heard your voice. So it was nice to hear you, and it was great to hear your kid as well. That was really sweet. So mine's going to be super brief. I'm so glad that I saw the title of the room. I opened up Clubhouse and I saw what was a veritable, desert of like content that I wanted to jump in and just listen. And then I got invited onto the stage, and I'm really grateful that that you extended the invite. That you've been so friendly, and the room has been lovely because it has really been a celebration of this this show that helped me connect with my kid. Like I said, he's 21, so not really a kid anymore. And he's in college, and even though he lives at home, we're basically roommates, right? But he came to me and he was like, "Mom, can you believe Fallout has a series?" And I was like, "What?" Didn't really it was a kind of a sort of interested, but more pretending I was interested just for him. But I remember him playing the game when he was much younger, when he was in middle school and part of high school, and he loved the game. And I remember, he would constantly tell me about the game and the lore, and he would share some of the songs on his playlist, and he'd be like, "Mom, check out this cool tune," and it would be like some old school song that I knew about, which was really cute. And so we watched the series. We literally binged the entire weekend, and we knocked it out between Saturday and Sunday. And it was great because he narrated a lot of it for me and reminded me of all the lore and stuff and all the things that were new. And so, and I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to, bring in any spoilers. But my point is, and I do have one, my point is that it was a great opportunity to connect with my son and to, just enjoy a really good show, because even without like the game background, it was a really, really entertaining show. I was riveted the entire time. I loved it. He loved it too. He thought it was very, very well executed. And he's pretty critical of he's a super duper gamer, so he's very critical of when they turn games into a series. Sorry, that's my dog drinking his water right next to me. And so yeah, it was a great experience. I loved it. I look forward to the next room. I'm so glad I stumbled upon this, and yeah, thank you. I'm gonna shut up now and send the mic back over to you.
Thank you. Deny. See, I can only remember it for a couple minutes at a time. Matt, your final thoughts, and then we'll see if Hillary's mic is working.
Yeah, really impressed with the show so far. Look forward to finishing up the episodes this weekend probably. And I think I wish it had some of the humor of the games, although I think we'll get that. There's some of the dark humor, but especially the stuff with the kind of the retro graphics of the vault. There's funny stuff with that. But yeah, I'll be curious to see where it goes. It's a
Yeah,
very
episodes
big
5 and
product.
6. So you're gonna love
Okay,
episodes 5 and
great,
6.
perfect.
Excellent. I want to give Hillary another chance to see if her microphone or if she's back.
I think Hillary probably had to go
Yeah, it happens.
take care of stuff. I do want to mention, this house, UK Cinema History, actually has uh, a Thursday room, Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern every week, that covers a movie. And this coming week, it's The Elephant Man, David Lynch's version. And the following week, it's Chimes by Midnight?
Chimes at midnight. It's
Chimes
the
at Midnight.
Falstaff is the other name.
Yeah,
It
by
was released under.
with Orson Welles playing Falstaff, and we've got there's a whole go to UK Cinema History and look at the schedule because Eric schedules out movies for like 2 months in advance. So you can see if any movie interests you and you have plenty of time to watch it in advance. So please feel encouraged if you enjoyed the discussion today to get involved in the Thursday movie series. Fallout is a kind of an unusually great series, but we're doing great movies every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So please check that out. Also, we're doing one of my very favorites, Last Holiday with Alec Guinness, 1950. That's coming up as well. One of my favorite movies. So recently we did stuff like Dr. Zhivago. So we do all manner of movie. Oh, and last week we did Sleuth. So we do all kinds of movies in this house. So check out the schedule. And if you have a movie that you love that is in some way involved with the UK, you can suggest it to Eric for adding to the schedule as well. So I just wanted to put that plug in for the house.
And as far as what Hai said, if you want to get a hold of me, I usually for each week leave a voice note in the UK room, and you can just leave it as part of a voice note because I leave those open. Or if you don't want to leave it that way, just click on my profile and go to my X, formerly known as Twitter, and you can just private message me there. So scheduling, yes, Thursday, The Elephant Man. That's going to be guest hosted by a very good friend of the room, Sheila Bloom of the Aristoposian poet. And next Tuesday, we're going to meet here, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for a spoiler version of this room. Give everybody a chance to kind of catch up on the show, and we can have a nice, fuller discussion. And I'll just put the word spoiler into the title and give people a week to watch it.
Oh yeah, just a heads up. So uh, Leonard and Daniel, they're doing a back channel on our Telegram. So they're trying to do a Sherlock Jr. room, I think on Thursday night. So maybe look for that. I think it's the 100th anniversary of Sherlock Jr. tomorrow. So maybe Daniel and Leonard will pop that up. I'm kind of lurking in the chats, but I do see they've been trying to get this together for like 3 or 4 days. So be on the lookout.
I'll keep an eye out for that. Do love me some Buster Keaton. So that's that's the Understanding Movies room. If you
Yes.
click on Leonard's profile, you'll see that's very very easy to get to from Leonard's profile. Another one of the great rooms here on Clubhouse, and kind of our sister room in a way. We've got a crossover thing going where we're all in each other's rooms. Other than that, unless anybody has anything else, we'll definitely see you, Hi, and Yazzie this Thursday for the Elephant Man, and we hope to see everyone else there too. But if not, we hope to see you Tuesday for the spoiler version of Fallout. And thank you very much. Want to join the conversation? Every Thursday, we record on the Clubhouse app. Just follow the link in the episode description, and you can be a part of our panel.